Yeah. Morgan is having a baby girl. Did we tell you that?
No, I don't know.
Did she know? Do you know that? She's having a baby girl.
I cannot remember if I knew that.
I didn't know.
Yeah, she's having a baby girl.
I probably did. If Juan didn't know, I probably didn't know.
En vivo, en Facebook.
Well, that's excellent.
Yeah, she's having a baby girl. I was supposed to remember her name. I can't remember. They already have a name picked out. I think it's a Marian name, if I remember correctly.
Mucho.
So that's good.
Some sort of feminine sounding.
Sounding Marian name.
Like conglomeration of sounds. It's I can't remember.
But is it Miriam? No.
You should text your wife.
Warning, the Catholic Man Show is about to begin. If you're looking for a dull, feel-good religion,
that's a short
or clap
intro.
your hands, sit around the campfire, kumbaya, you've come to the wrong place. We are dealing with toxic levels of authentic masculinity. I would say good luck, but luck is for pagans.
Welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side, so raise your glass. Adam Minahan here, sitting with David Niles, or the Sith Lord Niles. Juan on the button this evening.
Against the Jedi.
We have Jim guarding the door this evening. The fam is together. Also, shout out to Madeline. Madeline is my sister's preborn daughter.
Like the cookie?
Is there a Madeline cookie?
Yes.
Okay.
What?
But it's not a cookie. It's kind of like a little soft cake.
They got powdered sugar on top. They come in like
Madeline.
the kind of like a seashell shape.
Okay.
Wavy.
Well,
You don't know Madeline's?
maybe not. I don't know. I'm not, I don't know. But my youngest sister Morgan is pregnant, and she has a daughter on the way, Madeline. So it's exciting.
All right.
It's exciting news. Like,
I thought you were going to keep going.
life is a good thing.
Life is totally awesome.
Life is a great thing.
Especially when you have it.
Especially when existence is good, and that's very important this evening as we discuss our topic.
Right.
Our topic this evening is going to be on hell. So just
What the hell, Adam?
Yes, the hell there is
Some may say that it's better to exist in hell than to not exist at all.
at all.
I've heard that someone would
Yes,
say that.
some saints would say that. So just to give a fair warning to those who may be listening with other family members or sons or nephews of the Catholic Man Show, not that we are going to go into anything.
Or like your niece who's a universalist.
Because that will be offensive to her, for sure.
Whoever she is.
Just to let you know, we're going to be discussing hell this evening, so use your better judgment. So anyway, but tonight, the first thing we do on the Catholic Man Show, if this is your first time listening, we open, review, and enjoy a beverage. And I can't tell you how excited I am about this beverage because it's a variation of my favorite distillery of all time, which is Lefroy. Lefroy is my favorite distillery. And this is Lefroy 10.
Which is their best one.
Which is their best.
For the most part.
I mean, this is their staple.
Yeah.
It's Lefroy 10, but it's finished in sherry oak. It's a sherry oak finish. And so we've had...
And you are a big fan of sherry cask
I am.
finishes.
I like the complexity of heavy peat with a sweet finish. I do enjoy that. That is correct. So we'll see how this goes. So this is the Lefroy 10. It's sherry oak finish. If you've been listening to the Catholic Man Show for a while, you know that Lefroy is one of our favorites.
You had my interest. Now you have my attention.
Okay, very good. Well, I'm glad that I have both your interest and your attention. Juan.
That's a quote from The Great Gatsby.
Oh, very good. So cultured.
Mucho culture.
Are you gonna just not?
Thank you.
Are you gonna stay in
Sith mode.
Sith mode, or because this would be a very weird?
I figure like since we're talking about hell, I'm gonna stay like kind of dark.
Would be good for you to.
Don't worry, it'll be all right.
Okay. So here's another reason why I'm extremely excited.
Only our YouTube audience knows.
Yes. So this marriage of casks, it creates a rich, full-bodied flavor with notes.
Was it a
of-
Catholic marriage? Catholic marriage?
I'm sure it was.
It must
yes.
be a Catholic marriage.
Because the notes are with honey,
Mm-hmm.
bacon,
Yes.
maple syrup, alongside the classic smoke, seaweed, and hint of salt that Lafroig is known for. So I'm very excited because it's everything that it claims, everything that Lafroig is known for, plus honey, bacon, and maple syrup, which is like, come on. It's like, can you think of anything that would be better? I don't know.
The color is completely different.
It's completely
is.
different. The color.
It is.
In the
very
smell
dark.
is also completely different. It does not, like the standard Lafroig 10 has that very potent peat smell.
It is strong peat, but it's a honey peat.
But yeah, this has a lot more honey. That's what I really pick up on the nose is the honey here.
It would almost be like your Krupnik.
Yeah.
Mixed
A little bit. So like, but with regular Lafroig 10, you can like pour a glass and walk through the room and people will smell the peat.
Yeah.
If you did that with this, people are not going to pick up on the peat just because it's not, I think the peat maybe it's at least on the nose so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more mild and yeah, it definitely has more honey to it.
All right, well, let's try it on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
Cheers. Cheers, Jim. Cheers. Let's see if Jim's yummy scale takes into effect this evening. What are your thoughts, Dave?
Wow. Yeah, so it still is very peaty. Even if the peat is not on the nose as much, it's still I don't think it's really lost much of the peat on the taste. But yeah, the sherry cask is very evident. I think it's I like it. I think it's a very good change of pace from the standard 10.
Wow.
It is incredible.
That is really good. I like this way better than the lore. At least at the beginning. I mean, my first, I hate to say this because
I'm actually not a big lore fan.
You're not?
Mm-mm.
I like it.
I think I prefer the 10 over the lore.
I like this better than the quarter cask. I like this better than...
Last year's Carchus was really good.
Was that the port one?
Yeah. I just remember the Carchus is different every year.
Mm-hmm.
And last year's was, as long as we've been doing the show, that one was by far my favorite.
Man, this is really good.
This is very good, though.
That is really good.
Well done, Lafroig.
I'm a big fan of La Santa.
La Santa.
Yeah.
This is like the marriage between my two favorite scotches.
Yeah.
Man, that is really good. I enjoyed this.
Good find. Well done, Adam.
Yeah, I was really excited because it's like, so we've had the...
How much was it?
It was $80.
Okay, so around here, Lafroig now is in the $60 range.
Yeah, it may have been 85. 80 to 85.
Okay, so, it's more, but personally, that's really great. I think I'd pay an extra $20 for it.
Yes, especially if you're just a Lafroig guy.
Right, which I am. Right,
yeah.
So this is really hitting me, I'm their target audience right here.
So, Dave, we're going to Ireland soon.
Yes.
We're going to Ireland with Father
Sean Donovan.
Yes, that's gonna be awesome. I cannot wait.
If you don't know who Father Sean Donovan is, you need to go back and listen to the episodes we recorded with him on the Winged Hussars and the Holy Name of Mary. So he is the one. We talk about the wiffle ball tournament. If you've been listening to our show for a while, you know about the annual wiffle ball tournament, which is a big deal. One year I was at the wiffle ball tournament, just sitting there watching other people play wiffle ball next to Father Donovan, and he started telling me all about the Winged Hussars and the Holy Name of Mary, and I was like, Father, you're coming on our show this weekend. tomorrow you're going to come and be on our show. And we did it, and it was just like, it totally changed our lives. I think that's fair.
It could say it also... Like,
don't you think it's fair to say it changed our lives?
Yes. And it
I
also
second that.
changed the trajectory of even the show.
Yeah. Because now we have wine.
We have the Winged Hussar wine. We've discussed...
It's on our... wait, we don't have a t-shirt yet. I have a different Winged Hussar t-shirt.
I got a Winged Hussar tattoo.
Next to his turtle.
He did not. He does not.
He has a Winged Hussar riding his turtle.
He does not have that.
You should do that one.
That would be funny.
It's hilarious.
Great.
That would be great.
Put wings on your turtle.
So anyway, Dave, what are you? So we're in the process of Exodus 90. Have you noticed, or have you picked up any reading material while you're on Exodus 90, or have you, is there anything that you're doing?
I haven't picked up any reading material. I've been very busy. That's actually something that happens to me in Exodus 90 that I can finally, I have time to get stuff done. I've been helping a friend who will go unnamed remodel basically his entire house.
Mm-hmm.
That's not 100% true, but it's not far off. And so I've had time to help him, luckily, a lot this week. And I think that's probably that's not gonna change for a while.
Mucho help. Mucho help.
So that's been keeping me pretty busy. I have not had much extra reading time.
Okay.
The one thing though that I want to really pick up is I want to pick up the readings of give me a sec. I'm gonna have to take a second to think about her name, and when I think of it, you're gonna be like, I can't believe you couldn't remember her name, but she's a blessed. She's a mystic who received visions, a lot about Mary's life. Some a lot of the things from the Passion were based on.
St. Mary Margaret?
No, not St. Mary Margaret. I'll think of it in a second.
Okay.
She's blessed right now.
Okay. Awesome. But yeah.
What about you?
Well, so they the Catholic Man Show Patreon reading club, the book club.
Yeah.
We're about to finish To Mystic Common Sense by Father Gary Goulegrange.
The Caribou.
It's been such a rewarding read. And then so I put out hey, what else? What do we want to read next? And I gave 4 options. I gave Leisure, the Basis of Culture. I gave Restoration of Christian Culture by John Senior.
Yeah.
And I gave The Friendship book by Cuddeback, and then Orthodoxy by G.K. Chesterton.
What'd they pick?
Orthodoxy. Killing me. Let me talk about this on the way back.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
I'm not very happy with that pick, bro.
It's not that I'm not. Well, let's just keep rolling.
I tried to audiobook Orthodoxy one time.
Yeah.
Was it Maybe it wasn't Orthodoxy.
Everlasting Man.
It could have been The Man Who Was Thursday.
Oh, that would be even tougher.
I lasted about 5 minutes and said, "That's okay. Never mind."
I finished The Everlasting Man, and I literally called Monsignor Galas. I was like, "Can you explain this to me?"
The Man Who Was Thursday or Everlasting Man?
The Man Who Was Thursday.
Okay.
I talked to him this week.
Oh, good.
I told him we want to have him on the show.
Good. And he's in?
Yeah, he said, "Oh, I'd love to. What are we going to talk about?" I said, "Literally anything."
Literally anything you want to talk about. Good. Okay, let's keep rolling one.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles, here with Adam Minahan. We got Juan on the buttons, Jim on the door. We're drinking some Lafroig Sherry Cask, Lafroig 10 Sherry Oak Finish. Pretty fantastic. So far, I'm having a great time on this episode, even though I'm in Sith mode.
Even though you're in Sith mode. So before we hit the break, so I was talking about the book club that we do. So
yeah. Yeah, you do not sound happy with the choice of Orthodoxy.
It's not that I'm not happy about it. It's like,
were you rooting for another one that you thought was
hardcore
obvious?
Rooting for another one. In fact, I threw Orthodoxy in at the last minute, thinking well, I need 4 books.
Why?
I don't know. I just like, when you're giving, I gave a poll.
What were you hoping for?
You give a poll out, it's like, here, everybody choose what book you want. And so like, I felt like 4 books is the appropriate, and like, I didn't want
I think 3 would have been enough.
You knew which one he was rooting for.
Yeah, well,
tell me the options again. What were
Leisure, the basis of culture.
Okay, obviously that one then.
That was number 1.
Right.
The second.
And guys, for the next book review, I'm hoping for Leisure, the basis of culture.
Right. And then
like one by Dr. Cutterback, and then another by
okay,
Friendship,
so Restoration of Christian Culture by John Senior. Another one that I would have been.
Yeah, you've already read it. Yeah,
right.
so like have time to think about that one.
I was hoping to have a book that I've already read. So
but
that way
the one by Cutterback, although I thoroughly enjoyed it, and like I highly recommend, it's just I'm not sure that would have been like an appropriate. I feel like you're looking for stuff that's a little heavier. I mean, that's a pretty light read, even though.
No, I'm not. We were not, because.
Well, you started off with a heavy one.
Leisure is not like super heavy.
No. I mean, your
right.
your Caribou book.
Right. Yeah. Domestic Common Sense is a heavy book,
heavy.
And so like I wanted to switch it up. I wanted to not go as philosophical, like as heavy, so that way it may like bring other people in, or give it a little change of pace. So I thought like Leisure, Basis of Culture, Restoration of Christian Culture, the Friendship book, and I was like, okay, and Orthodoxy. And then as Providence would have it, everybody picked Orthodoxy.
Isn't the Lord's will hilarious?
Right. And so I was like, okay, that's good.
I think so.
That's just the way. That is the way Providence works. And so I started reading that this week, so that way I could start.
How is it?
It's good. G.K. Chesterton, the way he writes is just. He's really funny. Like he's very witty. The way he writes, you have to be on your game. So you have to be on your game when reading Chesterton, because and not the same way as you have to be on your game as reading like Gary Gould-Lagrange, because Gary Gould-Lagrange is very philosophically heavy.
Right. No, Chesterton is like trying to throw you sometimes.
Right. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, he's actually talking. He's not talking about this.
He set me up.
He's talking about Christ, and it's like I didn't even realize this is what he was talking about.
And he thinks he's being
time.
funny.
Right.
That's what it is.
So it's good that I'm jumping into it. I've been wanting to read it.
You should ask our friend
anyway.
Sam Guzman about it if you have any questions. He's like a big Chesterton guy.
He is. Yeah. I should. Anyway, so we're gonna do that here pretty soon. In about 2 weeks, we're gonna jump into Orthodoxy.
Sweet.
I'll be there too.
Oh, you're gonna join?
Just mucho.
Good one. That'll be good. And then also on the Catholic Man Show, we have a series of a guest coming up, which is gonna be very exciting. So we have Father Philip Bochansky coming in here in I don't know, maybe
I'm excited for that.
A week or two.
Coming back.
Yeah, coming back.
Coming back onto the show, and surprise! I haven't even told you this.
Will this be his 3rd appearance? Bochansky? He recorded with us once here, and then we did once in Chicago. Yeah.
Surprise, Dave! I haven't even told you this yet.
Okay.
But I believe Bishop Condola is going to join us on the episode, so we're gonna have
with Bochansky.
With Father Philip Bochansky. So we're gonna have Bishop Condola.
At first, I thought you meant this episode.
No.
I'm not sure I can stay in Sith mode if the bishop's coming in.
He's walking in. No. So we're gonna have both Father Bochansky and Bishop Condola on the show. So that'll be
awesome. Good. We won't even have to say anything.
Right. We just kind of pass.
That'll be perfect.
Right. And then so also we're gonna have Swan Sona gonna be on our show here pretty soon. We're gonna have Brian Besong coming on our show pretty soon. Mm-hmm. We're gonna have Chad Pecknold coming on our show.
Yep.
And then we're gonna also have Jeff Cavins coming on our show
in September.
So like we have a lot of like really awesome guests coming up, and the only reason why is because we're able to do this.
I would also really like to have Emily, his wife, on our show.
That would be fun.
She like has such like the coolest job. She's a historical biblical archaeologist. So she's like a female, like a real life female biblical Indiana Jones.
Dude, look how ridiculous you look. Here, I'm gonna help you.
No, stop that.
I'm gonna help you.
Stop that. You know I can't see the light.
Yeah. Look ridiculous. No, so anyway, the only reason
you chose the topic, bro.
The only reason why we're doing this is because, only reason we were able to do this because the support on Patreon.
Yeah.
So if you go to patreon.com/The Catholic Man Show, you can support us. All donations go right back into the show. One of the things that we're doing is if you support us in the month of February as a $25 or higher a month patron, we're giving away a Summa. We're giving away a Summa for anybody who
really big one.
is donating to us for $25 or more a month.
You will need a bookshelf if you win this.
So it's a 5-volume set hardback. Anyway, so it's an incentive. If you've been like thinking about joining, supporting, hopefully this kind of pushes you over the edge to where you join us.
When it's 5 volumes, do you know, is it like according to like the books in the Summa, like I don't think it is necessarily like secunda, like the second part of the second part.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's actually because all the volumes,
not all of it. I mean, because it's all like.
But the volumes are all about the same size, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think it's just like, hey, we had to space this. Summa's long. We had to break it down into 5 parts.
It's like what 4,000 pages or something.
It's a lot of pages.
It's a lot.
Can you imagine like dictating all that?
And that was not even his like.
This is guys.
One of his works.
It's a summary.
It's a summary. Let me sum up.
Anyway, for beginners.
Okay, so we're going to talk about hell this evening. Is going to be.
Do we have a man gear today? Are we skipping man gear?
No, I think we should do a gear this evening.
Okay.
Okay, good. We have a little bit of time, but we can maybe jump into the top. I don't want to talk about the gear too long, but we're going to talk about a paint stick. You just discussed.
Oh yeah.
You discussed just a second ago that you were helping a unnamed friend.
Some friend.
Restore his
in the world.
His home.
He's doing a very large project, and he's never done a project before.
Right. So it's one that's big,
But it's going well.
Imagine somebody who, when he does things big.
A little bit extreme, maybe.
Yeah. This person, and then also.
It's not Adam.
It's not me. It's not me.
But it might be, or not, somebody else in the room. And it's not Jim.
Or Dave.
Or me.
He's your guardian angel.
Yeah. But also, I am repainting the house as well. So this is something that's very...
In fact, I let you borrow my paint stick today.
Right, something very useful whenever you're painting your house.
So the paint stick is it goes back a long way in the Niles household, okay? So my parents, I remember being a young boy when they got their first paint stick. And this is like goes so far back, they literally bought it off of an infomercial. Like, can you think of how many things can you think of that you bought off of an infomercial that turned out good? Okay,
hey Juan, have we ever talked about the infomercial buy that Dave and I have done, the guitar?
The guitar, yeah.
We've done that on the
show?
Esteban
guitars.
Dang it. Okay.
Adam's turned out great. Your Esteban guitar was like really nice.
That is one of my favorite stories of all time.
Mine was the biggest piece of junk ever. I mean, like the
So Jim,
yours and mine were so
different.
They were wild, so drastically different in quality. It was
so Jim,
upsetting.
So, we're in college. We're at my house. It was after a night of partying. We're just kind of like, just like watching TV mindlessly, right? So we fall upon the infomercial, the QBC or whatever it is, and we're watching this.
Whatever the channel.
And we're watching this guy, Esteban, talking about his guitar and all of his DVD series and everything else.
Like the 20 DVD set that's going to teach you how to play the guitar, like Esteban.
Right, and so we're sitting there watching, we're like kind of mesmerized about it. And Dave goes, Adam, if they throw in an amp,
because there was an amp in the picture. I was like,
we are buying this.
It already said the price, and it was like,
it was like $200.
If they throw in that amp, I have to buy that.
And then
look at that guitar.
And then
it was this gorgeous black guitar with mother of pearl on the neck. I mean, it was like.
And then 20 seconds after he said that, they were like, and we're throwing in the amp.
And guess what? And it's like, and wait, there's more. But wait, there's more. And this classic infomercial, for your payment, for the next 20 minutes or something, like, we're going to throw in the amp for free.
And I look over at David.
Dang it!
We got to buy this thing now.
So we both ordered one.
And, $200 for a college student at our time, like.
It's basically all the money I had.
Like, I drained my bank account. But luckily they gave 4 easy payments of $50.
My amp broke. Like I think the first time I tried to use it, it didn't work. I
Anyway,
was so mad.
that is like one of our favorite.
We got to talk about the paint stick
Okay,
though.
hurry.
The paint stick is like, imagine like it's a roller, except there's this tube where you can draw paint into the tube, and then as you're rolling, instead of having to dip the roller back in the like rolling bucket to get more, you just squeeze the tube and it presses paint out the roller itself, so you can just like keep painting. You just start painting and you just keep painting. And when you run out of paint in the tube, you just go and like fill it up again. It's really great. You can get them at Lowe's. They used to call them a paint stick. Now I forget what they're. Now it's like Wagner brand. I think Wagner bought in the last few years, Wagner bought it from Paint Stick because it used to be Paint Stick brand. But anyway, It's awesome.
It's really helpful if you're trying to renovate your house.
Right.
So anyway, we'll talk about hell on the other side of the breaks. Get excited. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass. Get excited about hell.
See the paint on one now.
Yeah, paint is on one.
That's it. That's actually the reason why I'm covering my face.
Do you have paint on your face?
It's all over my face. Look at this.
No, it's not.
I don't have paint like like white speckled paint.
No.
Yes, I do. I had it right before I came over here.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
You're just gonna.
I mean, you got one like little speck.
No,
speck
like
right there.
I have like speckles of paint all over right here. Right? Like,
Yeah, bro.
all through here.
Okay.
Oh, do you have your contacts in?
Yeah.
I see 4 speckles.
Bro,
at
I
least.
can like see it on the camera.
Okay. I believe you.
It's all over my face.
I believe you. I do not.
You need to get your prescription.
You're right. You're not wrong about that. You're not wrong.
My wife is so incredible. She's like lately.
Oh, hey, Margot says that the mystic you're thinking of is Anne Catherine Emmerich.
Emmerich. Thank you, Margot.
Margot's like coming back to the show for the
Just,
first
like,
time
That's so great because she
in
always
17 years. She shows back up.
You know how like St. Paul talks about like how he makes up the suffering. He makes
Of
up
Christ.
the like whatever he says about that.
Mhm.
That's like Margot.
Margot's coming back.
She makes up for this.
It may be like the only time she comes back. She may be like, no.
I feel like she makes up for the suffering that our listeners are lacking when they listen to our show. Blessed Catherine Emmerich. Yeah, so she's like this crazy mystic who had all these visions and stuff.
People are upset about your hoodie, by the way.
I don't care.
Looking ridiculous.
You know what? Those people, the people of you people, I don't care.
Okay, let's keep rolling.
I mean, I'm like glad they're here, but I just don't care.
My infomercial story is that I bought P90X.
Ooh,
Oh, you
that's an
did?
expensive buy.
Yeah.
That
Hey,
seems.
would you show your body to the camera right now, Juan?
I refuse. Needless to
This
say,
is a
it didn't.
P90X body, everybody.
It didn't work. The CD was broken.
Did it not work, or was it was it a
No.
user error?
It was false advertisement. Is what it was. It was false advertisement.
Okay, fair enough.
Man, how did P90X like do that? It's just a workout video. Like any
With
other
rubber bands.
It's just like any other workout video, and they sold the crap out of that thing.
Yeah, they did. All right, let's keep rolling one.
Good for them.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. We're going to talk about a topic that is not talked about enough, I feel like. And you can take our show as an example. We've gone over 300 episodes now. Since 2016, the Catholic Man Show has been in existence. And this is the very first time that we are talking about hell. Which is
I mean, a little bit surprising. I feel like we've talked about hell. Like not a whole
as
episode.
Topic. Not as a topic, yeah. People criticize at times that the Catholic Church doesn't talk enough about hell.
And they also criticize the times when all they heard was fire and brimstone from the pulpit. Like,
Right.
like,
There's always going to be criticisms.
haters gonna hate. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Some people hate on my hoodie right now.
A lot of people are hating on your hoodie.
Yeah, but you know what? Haters gonna hate.
I guess so. So, but it's interesting. We should, like, as Christians, as Catholics, we should definitely talk about hell. Christ talked about hell a whole lot. Archbishop Fulton Sheen in one
He
of
definitely
his,
talked about it. Do you think he talked about it a whole lot?
is one of the most apparently one of the a topic that is talked about almost more than
Other things.
Yes.
Interesting.
So Archbishop Blessed Fulton Sheen talks about that Jesus spoke of hell 15 times specifically. Said 11 times he mentioned the eternal fire. 30 times in the New Testament, eternal fire is mentioned. And that was in a
It does seem like a lot.
that's in one of Archbishop Fulton Sheen's.
Oh, but
talks.
30 times in the New Testament, that doesn't mean necessarily Jesus,
No.
but just in the New
In the New
Testament.
Testament.
Okay.
And so it's important to talk about, especially in this day and age when we have confusion about universalism, about a lot of the other relativisms, a lot of the other isms. When there are kind of heretical ideas going about talking about that hell either doesn't exist, or that Satan does not exist, or that no one is in hell. And so, like, it is important to talk about hell.
I just think the notion, I just want to say this in the beginning, the notion that nobody is in hell is stupid. And it doesn't, like, I don't have to come up with like a good response to that argument. It's sort of like when people say, "Oh, it's just a brute fact that such and such is the way it is." It's like, no, that's just a stupid thing to say. There are obviously people in hell.
Scripture makes it very, like, it seems a very
Like,
clear.
and if you're trying
David
to
Lee
say
Hart disagrees with us vehemently.
no, if you're trying to say that there's nobody in hell, that's just a stupid thing to say. I'm not saying that you're stupid, but the thing that you just said is incredibly stupid. And like, that's just the way it is.
Right. So I think, okay, so let's define some terms that,
Okay.
before we get into it, like, insofar as like what is hell,
Okay.
and then
That's a good idea.
let's discuss like what is hell, and then maybe how people get to hell.
Mm-hmm.
So hell is an absence of something, right?
Correct.
So it is an absence of God.
Mm-hmm.
God.
It's sort of like the reality of evil.
The reality of evil. So evil is an absence of the good.
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously in Genesis we see that some of the angels decided to go against God and gets thrown out by our boy Saint Michael, the archangel, and hell is created. And the greatest good, the corruption of the good is the greatest evil, right? The corruption of the best is the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have Satan, who is the bearer of light. Light is a symbol of knowledge, is a symbol of truth, is a symbol of purity, is a symbol of chastity. There's a lot of different things that light symbolizes.
Mm-hmm.
Is casted down into hell, and him and a third of the angels are cast down there. So hell is an absence of thing, and it's an absence of Christ, of God's presence.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to go to hell, you have to
hell is the state of being as it is, or
it's
place.
It's a state. Yeah.
So like John Paul II and Pope Francis have both come out and said, or at least implied, I don't know if they've actually said outright, that it is not a place.
So JP2 did in the Wednesday audience in 1999.
He said that it is not a place. See, that to me is...
I'll quote you.
Okay, yeah, please.
We must not interpret the apocalyptic imagery about hell literally, but symbolically. He went on to say that hell is not a physical place, but a state. It's an absence of God.
Okay, so maybe it's because of like God is being. So heaven would be being, like there would be a physical place, the problem I have, and this is just like probably a confusion on my part because I don't understand it, but like in the souls in hell at the reincarnation of the, like the resurrection of the body, they will receive their physical body. And the physical
good.
body has to be in a physical place.
This is good. Okay, so can we table that?
Sure.
So, let's table that. So,
anyway, just hell is the lack of God.
Okay,
right?
so this is good. Like, don't let me forget though. We're talking about like when the resurrection body comes back. Like,
to me that's a little bit confusing. I just wanted to like,
right,
kind of flesh out, if you will,
right,
what hell is.
Okay. So hell also like
Juan just choked on his whiskey.
Whiskey, yeah. So in order to go into hell, in order to receive eternal punishment, what has to happen?
Well, you have to die in a state of in a state without sanctifying grace.
Right, which would also be the state of
mortal sin.
Right. So let's define this. Let's define mortal sin.
Mortal sin is a sin that requires three things. According to St. Paul, the wages of sin are death, but not all sin is mortal, according to St. James. So there are three conditions in order for a sin to be mortal, and what I mean by a mortal sin is a sin that removes the divine life within the soul. Those are that it has to be grave matter, so it has to be a serious subject. It has to be, you have to know that it's wrong, and you have to freely choose it anyway. So you have to say, this is serious, I know that it's wrong, and yet I choose it anyway. If even half of one of those three is missing, it's not a mortal sin.
Right. So if you want to look up the Catechism of the Catholic Church, 1855 says mortal sin destroys the charity in the heart and is of grave violation of God's law. It turns man away from God, who is the ultimate end in his beatitude, by preferring an inferior good to himself. Okay, so let's take an example. Like, so getting drunk. Like St. Paul talks about getting drunk as a grave matter, right? So getting drunk would be a grave situation. It would be a mortal sin if you knew about it and chose to do it freely.
If you set out to get drunk knowing it was wrong.
Well, knowing it was wrong.
I think getting drunk is a little bit complicated, because most of the time I think when people get drunk, it's not intentional. Like, you're not setting out to get drunk. It just kind of like...
Some people don't, yeah.
It kind of happens. It's a slippery slope, because as you drink more, your faculties are slowly reduced. Not that you're intending for that to happen, right? That's that's a common situation.
Right,
so because you got drunk doesn't mean, and you could know getting drunk is grave. I did get drunk, but did you intend to get drunk? That's the question.
Is a question. Yeah. So getting drunk, you're turning away from God. You're turning away from the rationality, the intellect that God has given you,
right?
And you've chosen an inferior good, which would be alcohol.
You've intentionally destroyed your faculties,
right? So you've turned away from reason and intellect that God has given you, and instead you've turned to something else, namely alcohol. Now you can plug and play a lot of different other things.
Sure.
For this, right? So whether it be I don't know.
Masturbation.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different other things that you can.
There's a lot of sins in the world.
Yeah, correct. So anyway, so you have to be able. So mortal sin, grave matter is you turning away from what your soul is intended, right? So you can run away from God as much as you want, right? So we have free will. God has given us free will. And we are allowed to choose God or not to choose God, and you're allowed to run away from God as long as you want to until you die. And then when you die, you'll be stand in front of your Maker. You'll stand in front of the
Creator. We will have to give an account
of all that we have done.
And when you say you're running away from God, we're not simply talking about like the avoidance of the highest good. We're talking about freely choosing depraved acts. Like there's a difference between choosing a depraved act and simply not choosing the highest good. Those two things is like, well, do you go to Mass every day of your life? You know, like, because that would be the highest good.
Right, you have to.
But that doesn't mean that it's a sin for you not to go to mass.
Sure.
And it maybe just one day you're tired.
Sure.
You know, and like it would have been good for you to go to mass, but it's not a sin that you didn't go to mass on this particular Tuesday because you were tired.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. Yeah. So, but again, grave matter has to do with.
I just feel like I'm worried that there might be people who aren't as familiar with the subject matter and.
Right. It's good to.
Clarify.
Yeah. But grave matter has to do with the issue of we're made for God. Our soul is made for God. When we choose smaller goods over inferior goods,
or when we choose depraved things over goods,
then we're not made. We're not fully living, right? Mm-hmm. So when we get back, I want to talk about descriptions of hell. There's a lot of things we need to discuss. So we'll be right back.
I'll try not to rabbit hole us as much on this last segment.
We're okay. I mean, there's a lot that I would like to cover, but
so here's a question that we got.
Okay.
Did God create a hell?
Okay, so just wait.
That is a good question.
That is a good question.
I want to give a shout out to Connor Hall. He loves my hoodie.
Connor does?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I feel like he gets it. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, let's keep going. I want to keep going before I lose my train of thought.
Mucho rapido.
Welcome back to the Catholic Men Show.
That was impressive.
I'm David Niles.
I did not realize you could do that.
You didn't know I could do that voice?
I'm here with Adam Minan.
Not the way that it was. Yeah.
I got skills, bro.
Got a lot of them.
We're talking about hell.
Hunting.
We're talking about hell. Yeah, bow staff skills.
Yeah.
Nunchuck
So,
skills.
caveat. So we have not read Dante's Inferno. Okay, so or at least I haven't. I don't know. Have you?
I have read none of the Dante. None of the Divine Comedy.
Okay.
I hear it's hilarious, though.
Dave and I are going into a reading group here pretty soon. We're going to read Dante's Inferno through Lent. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about hell tonight. We're going to talk about some of the things about hell that some of the saints have said. And then we're going to come back on the show after Easter and talk about hell again after we've read the Inferno with Deacon Garlic and discuss it again. And so like that way it will give a bow.
Deacon Garlic is like a well, he's well versed. We'll just put it that way.
He is very well versed. Yeah,
I think he said it's his favorite book. His favorite books anyway. Like
he
the
does.
Divine Comedy is his favorite books.
The Divine Comedy is his favorite
Works.
Okay.
Work.
Okay.
I know it's more than one book, so it's weird to say it, but
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so so Fulton Sheen talks about this. He talks about when he's describing hell. I want to talk about this really quick before we actually get into like the types of punishment of hell.
Okay, yeah.
So because I think it's very interesting. So he talks about descriptions of hell. He says hell is a hatred of things that you love. So it's the
that's
hatred
interesting.
of
Yeah,
things
that's
that you
a
love.
good way to put it.
So he uses this example of like a sailor who is made for the sea. He loves the sea. He loves being on the sea. He loves like traveling on the sea. He loves the waves. He loves everything about the sea, right? But he also knows that drinking the seawater is not good for him.
It'll kill you.
It will kill you. But it's the hating of the thing that you love. So he's stranded. He can't go anywhere, so he ends up drinking the seawater. So he's hating the actual thing that he loves.
Hating the sea, yeah.
Hating the sea that he, which is the thing that he loves. So he uses that as an example. And he also says hell is eternally mad at the mind for turning away from love. So he says, how many times have we said, like, I wish that I would not have done that? Like in your mind, like how many times have you said, like, in your life, as you're growing in your life, in virtue and in life, St. Paul talks about this, like, I do the things that I hate. Mm-hmm. So it's talking about, like, in your mind, you just constantly do that. You just constantly do the things that you hate.
I've done it 77 times.
77 times 7.
Times 7.
Yeah. So it's this idea of, like, this is not what I should do.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you do it anyway. You go mad because, like, doing the thing that you should not do and choosing to do it anyway is madness.
Right.
You decide to do it anyway, but you do this over and over and over.
And for me, it's usually over such petty things. Like the next day or like that night as I'm examining my conscience, it's like, what?
Yeah.
I chose that. It was so.
It's self-imposed too.
It was self-imposed and it was so petty. Like, it wasn't even cool, the thing I did.
Mm-hmm. Over and
wasn't
over
even nice.
and over again.
Like, I can't believe I'm just, you know what? And it's like, I did the same thing that yesterday. I'm like the worst.
Yeah. To me, at least I can imagine the times that I have chosen to do the wrong thing and been like, I cannot believe I did that. Like, I almost hate myself for doing this.
Sure. And there's like some justice in that. Like, I hate that behavior anyway.
Right.
You transpose that hatred onto yourself, but.
So something else interesting that he talks about in this is he says, hell is a submission to love under justice. Okay.
That's weird.
So listen to this. Justice forces those in hell to love God, but love submitting to divine order.
I suppose. That does make sense, but
to be forced to
just
love,
weird to think. It's just weird to think about it that
negation
way.
of love. So
You know what I mean?
Like, here's the problem: to be forced to love is a negation. Is not.
It's
love.
not really love.
It's not really love.
Yeah.
So, like, the issue is because Christ has a divine order. God has a divine order, and even the people in hell have to submit to the divine order. Has to submit to the hierarchy.
Have you ever read like people who have had near-death experiences who have been sentenced to hell? They all it's almost the exact same every way, that they all realize and recognize, I deserve to go to hell. Like, and they're they can't stand to be in God's presence just because of their own humiliation. They know I have rejected him, and it's like, I know I need to go to hell. That's where I deserve to be.
There's a sense of
there's a self-resignation, right? It's like, and they know that they're there justly. Mm-hmm. That's that seems to be a universal thing in those types of experiences that people report.
Yes. Yeah. And so something else that a lot of them report. So they talk about, and this is also biblical, is they talk about like this positive punishment and this passive punishment. So let's talk about the positive one first. Positive punishment involves the pain and suffering of the person endures through their whole being because of this deprivation of love. Okay, so when we talk about hell, like, this is something that we should really understand in regards to the whole body. Right, so there's this whole body of suffering, and Alphonsus Liguori, who's a doctor of the church and the moral doctor of the church,
he's a heavy hitter.
Yeah, so he talks about this a lot. He talks about the punishment of the senses in hell. So he talks about that that punishment in hell is proportionate to the sins committed on earth, meaning that some will suffer more than others.
Sure, like as is justice. The same is true in heaven. Some have a greater reward than others.
Right, so there's the same thing in the hierarchy of hell.
Like, none of us will have the reward of Mary.
Correct. And no one will suffer as great as...
There's a hierarchy in heaven, just like there is in hell.
Right, yes. And so he talks about this, and so he
is Satan at the bottom? Is it possible to have a lower rank in hell than Satan? I would say no.
I don't think so.
I would say no because of all the things that he was given at his creation.
Right.
He was the light bearer.
Okay, so this is something though I want to talk about before we get into. Okay, so I want to get into the different types of punishment within the senses.
I also want to talk about that. That
Okay,
sounds
but
cool.
before we do, I think it's very important to talk about how sin in and of itself requires retributive justice. Okay, so it requires. So I don't know about you, Dave, but there have been times in my life where I've committed a sin and I say like, okay, I need to go to confession.
Mm-hmm.
Well, confession is Saturday. Today is Thursday. I'm gonna go ahead and quote unquote, live it up.
I've never done that.
I don't think you've ever done that before. Knowing
I've
you.
definitely never done that.
Right.
I've definitely never said like, well, I already need to go to confession.
So
Might as well keep sinning until when I go this weekend.
You've never done that.
That idea's never occurred to me.
Right. So, but some of the saints talk about this and talk about how, we're going to be held accountable for every single sin that we commit. So even if you commit a sin that is mortal, that like you separate yourself from charity.
Yeah.
If you do another sin, okay, and let's say you die.
In the meantime, before you get to confession,
let's say you die.
Right.
You will suffer almost infinitely more because of the other sin that you've committed. So every sin that you commit, there has to be justice, there's retributive justice that has to be made for this, right? So if you die in the state of mortal sin, and there are multiple mortal sins that you've committed, in hell, there are going to be demons that will do nothing but humiliate you for all of eternity, for all of the different sins that you've committed without repentance.
And I think humiliate is probably a mild word to use.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, but
Don't you think it'll be worse
it'll be-
than humiliation?
It'll absolutely be worse than humiliation, but
Yeah.
but it's something to think about, right? So you always think about I got to go confession anyway, but you got to remember that every sin that you commit has to be
Right.
You'll
It's
be
not
held
about
accountable
how many sin sessions did you have, right?
Right.
How many sin streaks.
right,
But it was about how many sins.
right,
Each sin
that you commit
there will be an accounting for, just like each work of charity.
will be accounted for.
There will be an accounting for, right?
Right.
You know?
So if you have multiple sins, and everybody has a place in hell. So say Teresa of Avila talks about this, that she had this vision, and Christ tells her that everybody has a place in hell, and he even shows her where her place is, right? And so if you die in the state of mortal sin, you are going to hell.
And this is where
This
you'll be.
is this is the church's teaching. This is not Adam Minahan. This is not David Niles. This is
Right.
The church teaches if you die in the state of mortal sin, you are going to hell.
Which is why it's confusing why some people say, oh, nobody's in hell. It's like, really? Nobody is dying in a state of mortal sin?
Right.
I mean, I know it's possible to repent at your death, have the desire of repentance. And sure, I believe that the desire of repentance at your death is enough to save your soul. I believe that. But everybody
Right.
in the whole world who's ever existed, ever.
Right. So we've run out of time on the radio. If you're listening to us on Catholic Radio or KSEY, go to thecatholicmanshow.com. You can listen to this episode and all of our other episodes, over 300 episodes, on thecatholicmanshow.com, or check out all your podcasts. I don't know, whatever
Your podcast app. Whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
We're there.
We're going to talk about types of punishment and other things regarding hell before we get off this episode. We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers to Jesus.
Cheers. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that, because it is very important to understand that if you die in the state of mortal sin, you are going to hell. This is the church's teaching. This is not, this is a hard fact.
This is what the apostles taught.
Hold on. That's where I'm a bit confused, because what I've heard is that if you die in a state of mortal sin, you deserve hell. Now, whether Christ in his mercy does something else, what happens afterwards, we don't know. But you deserve hell.
Well, we all deserve hell regardless.
Yeah, but it's like, to David's point, it's like, if you haven't gone to confession, but you have a true repentance, well, you're gonna die instead of mortal sin, because you have not been absolved.
Okay, so this is
So what happens then?
okay. So this is good distinctions.
Right. So God is infinitely merciful, but he's also infinitely just.
Mm-hmm.
And he does not, like, once again, what we said is that, like, love forced isn't love.
Mm-hmm.
If you have not chosen to love Christ, he will not make you love him.
Mm-hmm. You cannot presume God's mercy.
No,
Right.
You can't presume it, but that's not what he's saying.
That's not what
Right.
I'm saying.
I know, but
But God will not force you to love him
Mm-hmm.
if you have not
with you.
chosen to love him. And
Right.
so the soul who dies in an unrepentant state. Now
But what does repented means?
that's
Because-
that's the gray
Well,
area.
Unrepented and unabsolved
well, okay.
are
That's,
different.
but
that's-
we don't
that's
know
the
we
gray
don't,
area.
We don't know the heart of man. So this is where we don't know the heart of man.
We're not casting judgment, but unrepentant mortal sin. Now, the unrepentant part that's the question, for every individual soul. So, this is not official part of the church teaching, but there have been other people, other mystics, who have said that Christ comes to everybody at the last moment of their life
Mm-hmm.
and offers them
Yeah.
a chance.
3 times.
Well, that's what the
Yeah.
lady. That's what the lady
And-
from
and I don't believe
Columbia said
at
that
all.
it was 3 times, but.
that
I mean-
doesn't reconcile a lot with a lot of the other church teachings. So,
But it does seem consistent with a God who is infinitely merciful that would come to you.
but if you reject him throughout your whole life, you're not even going to be able to see him in order to.
and
to
that's
be able
what
to,
the lady from Columbia who wrote the book Struck
Mm-hmm.
by Lightning. That's what she says is that if you have lived a life
Mm-hmm.
where you have developed habits of rejecting him, then when he comes to you at that moment,
you won't even.
you're
know.
going to reject him again. Like, it's not like you're going to have some, like,
Mm-hmm.
change. It's not like you're going to all of a sudden change your ways
Mm-hmm.
in this last moment of your life. You're going to be who you
So
are.
so we do not know the heart of man.
Mm-hmm.
You can, so for instance, like suicide, you can commit a mortal sin, and in the very last second, you could be repentant of it.
Jump off the bridge, right, and then
and then
whatever.
and be repentant of it, and still have a potential of salvation, right? However, we don't know the heart of man, and so we don't know what they were thinking during that time.
Or how culpable they were in the beginning for
that-
it, right?
right,
You know,
right.
like
So
not that they would
so
even
there's a lot
because there's
to
a lot
go
of
into
people
there.
who would commit suicide who don't even need to repent for the suicide because maybe they have like mental health issues,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're not culpable for that decision in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that there's a difference between an unrepented soul and an unabsolved soul. And like
correct.
when you
So-
say, but when you say if you die instead of mortal sin means unabsolved.
So Christ can work. So God can work outside of the sacraments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Elaborate.
So Christ has given us the avenues of grace in order to be in order for salvation, right? So He has given us the sacraments in order to be united with Him forever in heaven. These are the regular modes of operation, so to speak, in the Christian life in order to receive grace, in order to and participate in the economy of grace of the Christian life. Now, Christ can work outside of the sacraments. That doesn't mean that He is that He has to. That doesn't mean that He is obliged to, like he's not obligated to do so, because all of grace is a complete gift.
You said all of grace.
Yeah, it's like you should not
Grace
tempt our
is
Lord, right?
Grace is a complete gift for us. We do not deserve it.
Always.
We cannot merit it.
Yeah.
There is nothing that we do that can give us grace. Right?
Yeah.
It is a complete gift.
That's a good clarification to say.
Okay, so that's a sticky situation. I really wasn't wanting to go down that, but I think it's important to discuss.
Just because someone dies in an unrepentant state of mortal sin, the church condemns no one.
Thank you.
Okay, But the church condemns no one because the church doesn't know
what Christ's heart is.
or know what the person's heart is.
More so.
We actually do know more so what
you're
Christ's
right.
heart is.
You're right. You're right.
But we don't know what the state of that person's heart was or how culpable they are for those choices, right? So, like the woman who goes to get an abortion, like how culpable is she? Well, that is a different answer for every single woman who walks into that clinic.
This is the difference. Like, this is why we made the distinction earlier in the episode between grave and mortal sin, right? There are grave things that are happening, but mortal sin, which separates you from the charity of God, is a different thing than a grave matter, because it can be a grave matter, but if you freely choose it and know it and freely choose it, and it is a grave matter, that is mortal sin, and that does separate you from God. And the church teaches, if that is the case, you will be in hell for all of eternity.
That's the church teaching?
That is the church teaching.
So if you have not gone to confession.
Correct.
And you have committed mortal sin.
And you have committed a mortal sin, you will be damned forever.
Yeah, like, what makes me...
I was not aware of that.
This is the case.
It's just the just thing.
Well, that's what I was trying to draw the difference between an unrepented and an unabsolved soul. So
Mary is part. I believe that Mary is part of God's plan for the resolution of his what is the appearance anyway of a conflict between his mercy and his justice. That when Mary can step in according to the will of God and beg the Lord for the salvation of a soul, now his justice can be appeased by honoring his mother, the Christ's mother, while also satiating his mercy for a soul. I say that because there are examples of people who have, once again, this is just private revelation. It's like, this is not official church teaching, but I don't think that these people are liars. When they say, like, I was judged, I was condemned to hell, and then Our Lady begged Christ for my own salvation.
This is
you know what I mean?
Extraordinary situation.
It is an extraordinary situation, but once again, I don't think that, like, there's a story about a priest that this happened to, and he wrote it down. I don't think he's a liar. Like,
I'm not saying, but
I'm just saying personally. I believe.
I think that muddies the water, so to speak, because like the normal mode of operation.
Sure,
Christ.
I'm not denying the normal mode of operation.
Yeah, just like the sacraments, right?
I know, but
grace operates.
We should focus on this first, and then make caveats on.
You certainly shouldn't rely on Our Lady stepping in.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And that's where I was trying to make the distinction. My interpretation of the church teaching was that you were deserving of hell.
Everybody is.
Yeah, but if you die instead of mortal sin.
But even if you die in a state of grace, you're still deserving of hell.
Yeah.
So that there's not really a distinction there.
Well, is there? Because what you're saying is different. What you're saying is that if you die instead of mortal sin, church teaching says that you will go to hell.
That is correct.
Even if you repented. But you have not been absolved.
No. If you've repented.
If you repented, that's not...
But what's... Of course it is. If you do not go to confession, you are not absolved. And your soul is in a state of mortal sin.
So the normal mode of operation is that Christ has given us the sacraments in order to receive the grace that he wants to bestow upon us. The normal mode of operation within reconciliation of when we separate from God's love to be reconciled unto him is through a priest, is through John 20:23.
But
we talk about this all. This is mentioned many times. So the mode of operation, the normal mode of operation, is that through Christ has established this sacrament, which is confession. And so in order to be reconciled unto God, in order to be reunited into the body of Christ, you have to be completely sorry for your sins, and you have to receive the sacrament of confession. Okay, now,
so hold on.
Again,
I'm with you. So what you're saying is
normal mode.
What you're saying is that if you have not gone to confession and you die, right, and but you have repented, Christ himself takes the place of a priest.
We have the hope.
And
You can have hope.
So one,
But
the
you're
question,
not guaranteed.
the question comes down is like, all right, I could have gone to, like I don't know, but so like, let's say you're in battle, you're in the army. There is no you've committed a sin. There is no priest. I'm sitting here like thinking, I wish I could go to confession. I'm like, I need to confess.
Not even that. Just like you die in a car accident, and you've been feeling sorry for a mortal sin that you did.
I'm using an extreme example to prove the point.
Okay.
So I have the desire to confess. I am sorry. I want, like, he hasn't received absolution. I bring this up because the point is not whether you've received absolution. The point is, are you repentant? Now, if you're really repentant and you have the opportunity to go to confession, you will do so. If you think that you're repentant and it's like, there's a priest over there, I could go to confession, but it's like, nah, I'll go later. How repentant are you really?
Oh yeah, well, I'm
okay.
with you
So
there.
like that's the question. But receiving absolution is not the question. The question is really, are you repentant or not? Now, receiving the grace of the sacrament is the normal means.
Yes,
of course. But but that doesn't mean that there are obviously extraordinary situations occur all the time.
Yeah, but and that's where I'm trying to make a distinction. It's like, we are human beings, we're physical beings, right? If while you're alive, like before your heart stops beating, you have not gone to confession, you are in a state of mortal sin. Like your being as existence.
You mean hypothetically, if you're in the state of mortal sin?
Yeah, if you are in the state of mortal sin, and you're in mortal sin, and your heart stops beating, at that moment you are dead in the state of mortal sin. Now, are you saying that anybody that dies under that condition is going to hell, or are you saying that at that time there's a window? Well, repentance, Christ, X, Y, and Z could happen, where you're not going to hell.
So the church teaches.
That depends on the yeah.
Yeah,
Go
but
ahead.
what's church teaching at that point? It's like, if you have not gone to confession.
So my understanding of listening to many priests, through also a lot of counseling and things of that sort, like spiritual counseling, you die in a state of like an unrepentant mortal sin. Unrepentant of mortal sin.
And that's what I'm trying to distinct between unrepented and unabsolved.
So
No,
again,
it's not about being
unabsolved.
unabsolved.
Like this is
It's
why
about being unrepentant.
Remember this whole thing I've been talking about earlier is about the mode of confession.
Now, that doesn't mean that like, just because you're sorry for the mortal sin you committed means like, I don't have to like rush off to confession. Like I'll be good.
This is where we don't know the heart of man, and so we have the hope that Christ will. That Christ will. That you can reconcile.
And that's
with
the window
God.
that I'm talking about.
But that's not what I'm talking about. So this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you are in the state of mortal sin and you die, you are going to hell.
If it's unrepentant mortal sin.
To me, that's not a distinction.
Okay.
Between
Well, that's fine.
unrepented and unabsolved. Because
okay, that's fine. So I'm
your
going to table that though, because that's not what I'm interested in talking about at this point. Especially,
okay, bro.
The only thing the church is willing to like come out and say is that if you die in a state of unrepentant mortal sin,
you're going to hell.
Then you will go to hell. Now, if you have any form of repentance,
I am just concerned that we may or may not go into heresy here. And that's why I'm just making sure that we differentiate.
We're definitely not going into heresy, because what the church doesn't say is that if you are in fact sorry for the sins that you have committed, and then you die before you can get to confession, the church does not say that you're going to hell. The church doesn't say that you're not going to hell. But the church doesn't say that you are going to hell.
Your previous statement did not say unrepented. Just said, if you die instead of mortal sin, you're going to hell.
Okay. Well, unrepentant mortal sin is the thing that will condemn
And
you
that's a
to
good
hell.
distinction.
It's
good
an
dis-
important distinction.
Sure.
If you die in a state of mortal sin that is repentant, the church does not say that you are going to
Okay.
hell.
Thank you for indulging my
The
sidetrack.
church does not say...
I just that was a very important thing because a lot of people. This is
Correct. Now, the church also doesn't say that your weak level of repentance is going to be
Well,
enough to save you.
Yeah. So
But the church entrusts you to the infinite mercy of
we
Christ.
we actually already talked about that. We already talked about that. So I mean, because we do
You
not
can
know,
move on at this point.
because we don't know the heart of man.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why we made those distinctions earlier. We do not know the heart of man, so we do not know whether they are fully repentant or not. Okay, so but what I wanted to talk about before, I mean, we're already running pretty late, but what I want to talk about is like the punishment of sin, because I think it's very important to talk about in the understanding of what actually
In the senses, you mean?
in the senses, like and what hell truly is. So a lot
Because
of,
it's there for all of the senses.
for all of the senses,
At least at the resurrection of the body.
So Saint Alphonsus Liguori and like Saint John Bosco is another one that like talks a lot about. He had a lot of dreams, and they're written. Like I think you can go look that up, the dreams of Saint John Bosco or whatever. But he has a lot of dreams about hell, and Saint Alphonsus Liguori talks about a lot of this as well, about the different senses, like the punishments due to the person via senses. So he talks about like the sense of touch. Saints have described it as a crushing yet burning sensation. So this like crushing and burning sensation, which makes sense, right? Because like when you touch something, you feel the pressure of something, like so you know like whether or not like you touch something like that. There's pressure there, right?
Yeah.
So of all in hell, it's a negation of all good, right? So it's like the pressure is all of max.
Of all good. That's the thing is like, we're not talking in hell. It's not just the deprivation of important goods. Of all good.
Right.
There is no
There's
good,
no good.
in heaven.
Right. So Saint Bridget actually says in a revelation that she had, says that the whole world, if it was engulfed in flames, if the whole world was engulfed in flames, it would not even come close in
It's gotta be
comparison
so hot.
to what the first level of hell is.
Has anyone here ever been totally engulfed in flames?
I have not.
That's gotta be so hot.
It's gotta be so hot. Yeah. So the sense of touch, a complete pressure and burning sensation. So, and that's one that I think that most people can understand.
Well,
Right, the
that
sense
goes along with like the traditional like, like lake of fire, fire and brimstone kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
So even in that St. John Bosco's book that I was talking about of his dreams, he says he had this dream in the first layer of hell, the very beginning, the first wall. He was he was telling them like touch the wall, just that way you can say you've touched the wall, the first layer of hell, and like that way you know. And he did not want to do it, and so there were layers upon layers upon layers of hell, and like this is the very first one. He was like, it was just so hot I couldn't even do it, and so he ended up doing it, and like it basically like flayed his hand, it burned his hand to a crisp, like his skin,
in his dream.
Yeah, he woke up actually, and the skin in his hand was completely off.
Ow.
His epidermis, so to speak, his dermis was showing. Which would be
Embarrassing.
I didn't know this story. It's pretty
Yeah.
good.
I also did not know that story.
So also, but here's one that we don't think about, is a sense of like the taste.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's worse than any the foulest sewage water that you can possibly imagine. Like all the time, this is what the sense of taste would be like.
That's
like,
bad.
So constant,
Well,
right?
and what's weird is that at that point you're not eating anything, so all the taste you have is from like what's flying by your tongue.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is like the sense of smell as well, right? Because taste and smell are very coordinated. So brimstone, you know what brimstone actually means?
No.
Sulfur. So brimstone actually
Makes sense.
Like, brimstone on fire, right? So brimstone is another word for sulfur. And so like the sense of smell, like the saints have talked about how the smell is so overwhelming. It's the sense of sulfur that they said like one soul in hell, suffering the torments of hell, would kill anybody in the vicinity of them just by their smell.
Mm.
You mean
pretty bad.
like you would kill somebody with an H2S exposure? You mean like
I don't know what you're talking about.
so like sulfur, like
H2S.
like when you're drilling for oil, there's
Oh.
like gas that's sulfuric acid gas, and if you breathe, you die. Is that what you're referring to?
I have no idea.
I mean it's like there's a compression of sulfur, and like sulfur actually killing people.
it would like this. Is, I'm just what I said.
I'm
is-
guessing
what-
it's worse than that.
It's worse than that. So also like so the sense of sight. So not only is it like completely darkness and like Aquinas talks about this as well. Like he talks about like the sense like is hell completely dark? Okay, and so there are souls that are burning, which you would think would bring light. But it is a complete darkness. Okay, and so like not only do you have the sense, the insight of like a complete darkness, but you also have a sense of seeing other people completely tortured.
So how can you see without light?
You have it like you just
see.
you just do. I don't know. I'm not there. I hope I don't ever get there. To the grace of God. But so like imagine
there's so much fire.
imagine like so even in this naturalistic level, like right, so like we hate seeing suffering,
Right.
right? On a natural law level, we hate seeing suffering, and so like a lot of times we avoid a lot, to avoid suffering. Now I'm not saying that that's the law. I'm not saying like that's what we should do.
Yeah, but
like,
we do. Yeah.
But a lot of the we try
If you see like a couple in an argument, people will turn away, right? I mean, there's like, you stay away from suffering.
But there's this, there's some contention there, and I'm not. That's not what I'm like.
But that's a form of suffering, and people will stay away from it, right?
Right. So, but the agony of seeing somebody else suffering is something that is very tough as
Right.
a human to see.
Right.
Right. And so, like in hell, you see all the people in hell suffering, and that is weighing on you as well. Okay, and then you see like the hearing aspect, and that's something that I don't think about enough. Is like the hearing of hell. So in hell, like you hear these screams and the torments of hell. And St. John Bosco talks about this, like the sense of screaming and torment, and how it will literally drive a man crazy. It would drive a man crazy. Like and as a like this is a very small like I don't want to correlate here, but like, as a dad, you hear a baby cry constantly. If you hear a baby cry constantly, you kind of
It will drive you crazy.
It'll drive you crazy.
Definitely.
Right? And so imagine.
I know about that right now.
Imagine like people being tormented
And not a baby
all around
crying,
you.
but
like not a baby
people
crying,
screaming
but
in
people
pain.
screaming in pain, tormented all the time around you. And this is what you have to deal with.
yeah, I think people tend to think about the the sense of touch in hell
Right.
most.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like when they think of the suffering, they don't think about the other senses. They think about that sense, like at least for me, that's the one I think about the most. Is I've always thought about, oh yeah, the physical suffering, not necessarily the visual suffering and the like nasal suffering and the vision,
Well, Dave, you and I have heard of wives, go through labor and how painful that is, and how loud it is, and how that moves our souls, and just like that sound of suffering is so deep.
But so another sense is like this hunger and thirst.
Yeah.
Right. This hunger and thirst in hell of and St. John Bosco talks about how there are people in hell who would prefer earthly starvation, who would prefer basically going to concentration camps in World War II and being starved to death. They would prefer that over hell.
I would also prefer that over hell.
Right, but I mean, think about for all of eternity, because the concentration camps are a moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure.
for all of eternity,
Right. Yeah. Having to endure that. Yeah.
endure that and say, I would rather I would do that for all of eternity than what I'm doing currently.
Sure.
That is scriptural in as much as that example of the servant, the rich man that goes to hell,
Mm-hmm.
and he's thirsting so much. It's like, just ask him to dip his finger in your water
Right.
and just touch my tongue.
Mm-hmm.
How desperate that must be.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's totally scriptural.
And so all of these things, all of these things are like the positive punishments, the things that are inflicted upon you, which are nothing in comparison to the passive punishment. So all of these things that are physical punishments, and this is something that's on a natural level as well, right? So like when you are going crazy, like there are people who go crazy, and instead of when they're going crazy, they hit their head upon the wall or something like that to inflict pain upon themselves, so that they forget their physical reality, because they care because
So that they forget their mental reality.
I'm sorry, they forget their mental reality and
Right.
inflict pain so that they can forget about it.
Be in a physical place, right?
Right. And so this is on a natural level, right?
Yeah.
We understand this. But this is nothing compared to the passive level of the separation of God.
Sure.
The understanding that we are made for God, that our soul is made for God, and that we freely chose to not be a part of it. And that all of the demons in hell that have tempted you throughout your life are ridiculing you or making fun of you. All the people around you are hating you. There's no love. There's no love there. They all hate
Right.
you. Is so much worse than the physical pain. And that's tough.
Makes me think about our obligation to share this news, to share the good news with other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people don't. I mean, most people don't know what's awaiting for them.
Right.
Share the charisma.
The charisma.
Right.
Okay, so Aquinas. So I have two questions for you, David. I want to talk about this.
Okay.
That Aquinas talks about, and then we can go however we want. So Aquinas talks about whether or not you cry in hell.
Yes.
Okay. Is nuanced whether you cry in hell.
You're telling me all these physical things happen to you, and you're not crying?
So he talks about crying requires is a manifestation of a physical body. Of there's something that is physically happening.
Yes.
And so he says you actually do not cry until your resurrected body has happened.
Oh, well, obviously, but I was thinking that, yes, when you get your body back, you can't cry without a body.
Right.
But once you have your body back, then you will cry.
Right. And so he says actually souls are completely they do not want the second coming to happen.
No.
Because
It'll be
because
all of
infinitely
we
worse.
just talked about all these sense touch things, so it's like
It'll be infinitely worse.
This is the context I thought your question was coming in. Oh, can you smell it? Can you see it? Can you taste it? Can you touch it? Well, if you can do those things, then you're going to be crying.
Right.
So that's the context.
Okay. Yeah.
I was answering your question.
So
because none of these things happen until you get the resurrection of the body.
Right. Yeah.
So at least when you go to hell in the beginning, at least you get a few warm up laps in hell
which is not
where you don't have to deal with the sense punishments. All you have to deal with is the worst one, which is the separation from God.
Okay, so here's another question for you.
Okay.
How can a finite sin affect you for all of eternity?
Because it's against an infinite God.
It is against an infinite God. Yes.
And so even the smallest of sin deserves and merits an infinite punishment because it is against an infinite God. So even the smallest of sins merits an infinite punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is an infinite punishment? That is a punishment for all of eternity.
Correct. So yeah, that is correct. So it's interesting though. So we don't take that for what it's worth, even on Earth, right? So
Certainly not.
So even a person who commits murder, a person who commits murder only take how long does it take them to commit murder?
Well, that answer varies, you know.
Right. So
answers may vary.
Answers may vary. No longer than, hopefully, I don't know. Let's just say hypothetically 1 day. Okay, let's say hypothetically 1 day. It takes a full 24 hours to commit murder. Okay, we don't put somebody in jail for the 24 hours that they commit something.
Correct.
Right. So so somebody commits murder, they commit a 24-hour sin. We don't put them, okay, you now have to have 24 hours of
jail time.
No.
Because you spent 24 hours killing somebody. Yeah.
No. You committed a sin that is of a different degree, is a higher degree. It's a difference between degree and kind, right? So it's a higher degree. And so you merit maybe 25 years in prison, 50 years in prison, whatever life in prison, right? So there is if you do something that is wrong, like there is a merit that you have to, like the retributive justice aspect has to be made in the natural world. And so like if you take that aspect or that understanding and apply it to the eternal world, Aquinas says like it has nothing to do actually with how long it takes you to commit a sin, but how grave the sin is.
Right.
And so that's the distinction you made. And there are a lot of, surprisingly, like Christian theologians right now that are pushing against this.
Retributive justice has fallen way out of vogue.
Yes.
Way out of style,
right.
if you will. But Aquinas is pretty clear about retributive justice.
Mm-hmm.
So so for you to say that retributive justice is not the church's teaching or is not God's way, which you could do, because just because Aquinas talks about it doesn't mean that it's infallible. Mm-hmm. You know, Aquinas' opinions are not infallible. But for you to say that retributive justice is not something, is not the way of the universe, is not God's way, you do have to say, you have to be willing, you have to have the guts to come out and say, St. Thomas Aquinas was wrong,
right,
on the issue of retributive justice. And so, like, you have to be, I mean, that's, okay, and remember, like everything else, he has steel-manned his arguments.
Mm-hmm.
So you better be prepared for that. You know what I mean?
So, again, so there is a imperfect and perfect love. Imperfect and perfect love. Like the imperfect love of Christ is the fear of hell.
For a person to have imperfect love for Christ, when you say the imperfect love of Christ, it makes it sound like Christ has imperfect love.
I'm sorry.
The imperfect love for Christ is fear of hell.
Right, is a fear of hell, which is sufficient for salvation.
It is sufficient.
But the perfect love for Christ is the love of Christ for himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is not
regardless of heaven and hell,
right.
You love him simply for who he is.
But in this day and age, we forget about like retributive justice. We forget about the punishments of hell. We forget about the punishment of sin. We forget about the actual damage that is caused by mortal sin. So even if you commit it, like
to yourself.
So even and to the community.
That's the thing about sin is that yes, you do. Yeah, there's the community, like the communal aspect of sin that you know, like no sin happens just by yourself, but like you're hurting yourself.
Mm-hmm. And like even what we said earlier in the program, like even if you mortally sin, and then the next mortal sin, you have to account for all mortal sin. Mm-hmm. You have to account for every sin that you like. We're accounted for everything that we do here on earth while we have this time. And so it is very
Right.
important to not take lightly sin.
But also the communal aspect is important.
Sure.
It's sort of like peeing in the swimming pool. We're all swimming in the pool,
Right.
and you're peeing in it, and you think it's not going to affect us, like
Right. And so it's important, like if you do not have a regular confession schedule, you need to do it. Like you have to do it. Like the pain
Yeah.
of mortal sin is damnation.
Look, my dad once told me the only thing that matters in life is that you get to heaven.
It's the only thing.
Nothing else matters. It doesn't matter how rich you are. It doesn't matter what kind of car you drive. It doesn't matter how happy your life was. It doesn't matter how much suffering you have in this life. The only thing that matters is that you get to heaven.
Right.
And that is one of the things that he told me that is like there are like few things that I remember specifically from my childhood.
Mhm.
I have a lot of childhood memories. I'm not one of those people who don't have childhood memories, but I remember him saying that to me as a child, and that really like sinking in. It's like, yes, if you don't get to heaven, what mattered? Then
Right.
nothing matters.
Right. So after we go through Dante's Inferno,
We're gonna do hell again.
We're gonna talk about hell again, and we're gonna like recapitulate all of this, and talk about maybe some more that we've learned with Deacon Garlic. He's already committed, so it's on him.